Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit posts are from MaliciousCompliance. Story 1 is by Sufficient Forever 11. Give me a parking ticket for a spot I paid for. I dare you. About 10 or so years ago, I went to a concert an hour away from me in Indianapolis. Decided to make a day of it, going to several museums and spots around the city. Each time paying for parking in a garage for 2 or so hours, then going to meander around the city. Finally, I go park close to the venue and paid for parking until the time it was free. Total, I probably paid about $40 to $50 for parking throughout the day. Enjoy the concert, but come back to a parking ticket on my car. I think, this is odd, but I am tired and chalk it up to a mistake. But I decide to take photos of my parking spot. Both spots on either side were taken, and all the signage, and head home for the evening, figuring I would sort it out in the morning. The next morning, I review the ticket, the photo of my spot, and the parking receipt. The ticket did not line up to the spot my car was located in, and my receipt shows that I had valid parking at the time of the ticket. So I submit an appeal thinking this will be easy. It's obvious that a mistake was made. The appeal was denied. The ticket was for the spot that was not paid for, ergo it stood. I called the office and the lady said they did not make a mistake, as my receipt showed that I paid for spot X1 and the ticket was for spot X. I asked about the photo proof with my car and spot X1. She said, well, you could have moved the car. Note that the parking receipt included my license plate number and everything. Think Park Mobile-like system. I noted that there were cars and spots on either side of me and that the entire street was full because of the concert. And honestly, I don't think they bothered to look at the photo. Even had that not been the case, I had proof that the license plate had a paid parking spot. No matter what, no dice. I am feeling petty over this $25 parking ticket at this point, so I called Visa and asked if I could retract the amount I paid for the time that I had parked since it didn't count. I submitted all the evidence and documentation to Visa. Visa, in what was the greatest thing Visa has ever done in my opinion, they agreed that if my parking receipt and transaction number wasn't proof I had paid for parking, then clearly I had paid for a service I did not receive. And they extended my initial request of canceling the one transaction to include all the parking spots I had paid for through the system that day, valued at more than the parking ticket. Then they filed a formal complaint on my behalf with a letter explaining why they were refunding me. It would not have been nearly as satisfying if I had not spent the entire day playing tourists in the city and racking up a large parking bill, all with the same vendor. Just imagine how dull your life must be. To say to somebody who has photo evidence of their car in a parking space and the receipt for the parking space they paid for, and you say, well, you could have moved the car. They must have scammed the system somehow. What a sad life that must be. Our next story is by Hate This Tradition. I refused to cook and chilled with the men. I'm a 28 female and I dislike cooking. Don't get me wrong, I cook for survival. But it is not something I like or enjoy. At my in-laws, both mother-in-law and sister-in-law are stay-at-home partners and love to cook. Neither of their husbands lift a finger to help, and they like it that way. Before marriage, I was treated as a guest. But since my marriage 6 months ago, they expect, want, and demand I cook with them. First few times I went along with it, but I hated it. It took 5 to 7 hours to make food and do dishes. So when they planned to get together last weekend to discuss the menu, I suggested ordering in. This way, everyone can be more relaxed. They looked at me like I insulted them. I told them they can cook, but to give me a list of what I should make and I will buy it. They said that's not how traditions work, and if I hate to do it so much, I can relax with men. That's exactly what I did, much to their anger. I helped setting place and serving, but that was it. As we were eating, my husband commented how good something tastes. Mother-in-law immediately went on about how I wouldn't be cooking anything for him. When he said he can cook for himself, sister-in-law chimed in with how her husband or dad never had to cook a day in their life, how marrying lazy women like me has ruined his manhood. I looked at my husband, and we both left. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law are blasting our phones over my arrogance and calling him spineless. Even my mom is taking their side now. But guess who doesn't care? Oh, I don't know if I should say this or not, but I just envision you holding both your middle fingers up at that last statement. Lazy women, because they won't do your stupid little tradition. Traditions are important in some cases. I always say this when there's a traditional story. Some traditions are great. Some traditions are important. If you enjoy doing these traditional things, then do them. But do not demand, based on male or female, that somebody has to do this. Because not everybody likes to do what you like to do. Not everybody wants to be involved in your traditional BS, if it's like that. If I married into that kind of family and they demanded that I do that, I don't cook. I'm not a good cook. People who can't or don't regularly cook, they're doing you a favor by not cooking, because they're going to mess something up or just be in the way. I would be, I'm sure this woman would be too. Down in the comments by LeftStar2240. Standing up to family for his wife was a true demonstration of their partnership. There's too many traditional stories where the men are like, well, you should just do it. Just keep the peace. I love that this husband saw her look at him. They didn't say a word. They just got up and left. Together, as partners should. Underneath that by Hi Zombies. I was expecting this to be further up. I like the fact that you shared a look and understood each other enough to go, that's not on, we're out of here. That's how relationships last, right there. Our next story is a long one, but it's a good one. This one is by Dr. Bubbles, PhD. The Tales of the Maliciously Compliant Nanny. I've been working in childcare for a long time, 20 years to be exact. In that time, I've been a babysitter, a nanny, a preschool teacher, and mother's helper for dozens of families. I have many certifications and great references that always tell my prospective families I know what I'm doing and I should be listened to. Well, I was job hunting again and found a family a bit outside my area, but they were willing to pay me pretty nicely. Still well below what I'm worth, but times are rough and I'm understanding. They said their daughter has been pulled from school due to health issues and needed some discipline. So I decided to put my super nanny hat on and take the challenge. I love to turn nasty toddlers into lovely kids. It's my specialty. So I start day one with this little girl, and oh boy, I had my work cut out for me. I was given 3 objectives. Make sure she potties. Her health issues were kidney related, so this was super important. Make sure she washed her hands due to her compromised immune system. And make sure she picks up her toys. Easy enough, right? Absolutely not. So I'm at her house a grand total of 1 hour and it's time to go potty. I ask her first, can you go potty? Met with a resounding no. Okay, new approach. You need to go potty. Cue the waterworks. Screaming, crying, fighting me. You'd think I'd led this child to a killing floor at a slaughterhouse. Well, I'm trying to talk her through how we can do whatever she wants if she just goes potty. Well, while I'm making progress, Dad comes downstairs from his office to console her and tell her she doesn't need to do it. Okay, fine. When it's time for lunch and she needs to wash her hands, cue the second freakout of the day. I am trying to explain to her why we need to wash our hands and that she'll eat as soon as she's done it. We went back and forth for about 10 minutes before Mom comes out and hand feeds her so she doesn't have to touch the food. Anytime a parent comes out, the kiddo starts bossing them around and getting her way. After lunch, she becomes inconsolable. I ask her when her nap is. They tell me she sleeps from 4 to 6 p.m. and doesn't sleep until midnight and is up by 8. I'm sitting here going, a toddler needs way more sleep than that. I try to reason with them that she's not an adult and cannot make it through a whole workday without sleep. They push back. So we have 2 more days of this, screaming, fighting, undermining by Mom and Dad. So on day 3, I have a talk with them and come to Jesus moment. Hey, I can't change anything if y'all are walking back everything I try to do. And they hit me with, "Well, you should try to get her to like you first, then she'll listen to you." And I really wanted to say, "Like she listens to y'all?" But I bit my tongue. They told me point blank to just do what she wants until she listens to me, and then start enforcing boundaries. I tried one last plea to tell them that's enforcing the behavior we're trying to correct, and it will take longer to right the ship. Nope. Do what she wants. Okay, let's go! Day 1 of malicious compliance. Dad has an important meeting and needs not to be disturbed. Toddler decides she wants Papa. So I go, "Let's go get him. He said you can do whatever you want today. I'll race you up the stairs." So we run up the stairs and she bursts into his office while he's on a client call. Toddler decides she wants Mama. So we go burst into her office and drag her into the room to play. They are now both being forced to play by this little tyrant. And every time she tells me to leave, I do. They keep trying to call me back in to distract her, but she keeps saying, "Go away." And I go, "It's what she wants. I gotta do it." They are getting visibly annoyed. So now this child has gotten everything she could ever want, and once again, immediately after lunch, goes into thermonuclear meltdown. I say offhandedly, "I bet she's tired." They fight me and try to tell me she's just upset by change. She screams for an hour and a half. Mom tries to prep her a snack because they're convinced she's hungry. I'm telling them she's tired. There's a very certain tone to an overtired cry, and 20 years of experience has gotten me to the point of knowing exactly what that sounds like. Dad scoops the toddler up and takes me outside to have a talking to. So while this guy is explaining to me how to do my job, I just sit there and shake my head. He tries to tell me he knows his daughter better than me, and he'd know if she was tired. I just smile and look him right in the face and go, "Oh yeah? She's asleep on your shoulder." She must have been tired, if only there was someone who knew that. When he realized the crying had stopped and she was passed out on his shoulder, the look of most utter defeat was on his face. He tried to walk it back and then tried to find ways I wasn't right. Couldn't find it. Funny, it's like I know kids or something. I spent 3 more days in my vicious, malicious compliance. The parents were haggard. I thought we were going to get somewhere. And then when she hit that overtired time after lunch, they tried to send me to the library to get Screaming Child out of the house, in the same breath as telling me to make sure I sanitize every surface she touches. They tell me they don't buckle her into her car seat because she doesn't like it. I quit on the spot. Then immediately reported them to the service I worked with. I do believe they've been fired as clients, and CPS might have gotten involved. But all I know is they had 4 work days they had to make up at night once she fell asleep, which, remind you, was at midnight. So I feel like I got my perfect revenge. This child was so enormously spoiled, Mom and Dad would cater to them. Something that I learned as being a teaching assistant for years and working with little kids is there are a lot of kids that will lash out and act out to get attention because they like attention. Any human being, young or old, likes attention. There are some people who like their privacy too when they get older. But generally, human beings like attention. And little kids definitely learn that if they throw a tantrum or act out or do something bad, they get attention. Regardless of whether it's negative attention or positive attention, the attention itself is what they desire. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a splendid day.